Hello, hello, and welcome to our 19th episode of Love It to Shove It. And today's topic is going to be the role of sex in modern relationship. We are going to be discussing different attitudes toward intimacy. And I'm here with my co-host Bruno Gill, and we have the guest Tim Bridges. Tim, just introduce yourself and say a few words about yourself.
Hey, Tim Bridges here. You've probably seen me, third party people, focus on recruitment and design. And today, I guess we're going to talk a little bit about relationships and kind of talk about our past a little bit. So that'll be fun. Look forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So let's just dive in. I love all these topics because a lot of times we are not really opening ourselves up. And a lot of times we don't even talk among ourselves, even with the close people. So a lot of education we get actually from social media or watching the movies. And when we watch something in that nature, when we see lots of sex during the movies or whatever the social media is exposing to us, we think this is exactly how it should be, and how come this doesn't happen in our life? Okay,
Yeah.
would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. Well, as a father of three kids and a husband to a beautiful, amazing woman, I'm here to tell you that it's not like the movies, okay? So the reality is what you make it. And so all these movies, they are just that. They're movies. They're stories that someone has written and carried out with actors and actresses. So, you may admire some of these things that some of your favorite actors or actresses do in movies, but fact of the matter is it's not very realistic when you get down into what is a relationship and how much sexual activity is going to happen, you know. But it's all about communication, and so you just want to find in your partner. You want to be able to talk to them and negotiate what kind of lifestyle you want to live. Is it one where you're trying to where it's centered around sex, or are you going to center it around something maybe more meaningful? Do you have goals that you're trying to accomplish, or what kind of goals do you have for your family? Are you trying to have a family, or are you just trying to have a one night stand? So I don't know. Maybe you guys want to talk about that. Did I bring up some decent pointers there?
Bruno?
You go first, Irene.
Okay, so what I wanted to point out is that statistically speaking, they say that from 10 to 20% of the population is living the sexless life, meaning that they have maybe 10 or less intercourses throughout the year. And I think there are a lot of factors that also play a big part of it, because as we were discussing before we come in life, right? The first indicator is when there is just a couple, whether they're just in a relationship, boyfriend and girlfriend, or when they are married and they don't have the kids, they have a little bit more free time to explore and do different things and have these romantic nights and do whatever, right? As opposed to when you have the children, it puts a lot of pressure on you, because then it's not just you don't free up your time the way you have it when you're without the children. So obviously more attention goes to the kids. And I'm speaking for myself as a woman. I remember those days when the kids are like really small, and all you feel like at the end of the day, you just want to hit that bed and don't do anything. So I think it also comes to the point how exhausted you are from the things, right, and all the responsibility that you have along with that. And I know Bruno doesn't have kids, but Another thing could be just talking about stress, right? How stress does impact our libido, right?
Yeah.
Bruno?
Well, one thing I can say though, like I love how you touched on that statistic, especially because like you have like I don't know what's better or what's worse, like to be sexless or to have meaningless sex. 'Cause they're both bad, you know.
Yeah.
Because on one side don't you don't have a connecting moment, even if it's sort of an attachment in terms of body, right? Because connection goes beyond that. But at the same time, having meaningless sex just keeps on pushing more that idea of having it once it's fine, but having it too much. Number one, you are dependent on it, and number two, you're starting to developing the idea that not only you're just worthy of that, when you're worthy of much more, but at the same time, you feel like you are not enough for somebody else, and that's your fear and that's your insecurity, right? So you rather be the one of controlling the situation by manipulating yourself into believing that, oh, one day yes, but now I'm just going to have some fun, right? And that's just one side of the story. Because a lot of people, lots of people, right, when they get to their 30s, and I believe especially women as well, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of women, they get to their 30s, their 35, 33s, and they want to start a family and they don't want to start this. And then they're like, oh, now I'm going to find myself a great guy. But all the great guys, they're already gone. They're all taken now. And what you going to do now? Compete with the 21-year-olds? No, you can do that, right? Now you're going to have to find a way.
Yeah. So, for me, now that I'm 40, I've lived all these different lives, if you will. And so, you don't know what's worse, meaningless sex or no sex at all. I've experienced both of those. And, I feel like expelling our energy in meaningless sex is definitely the worst case. It leaves you feeling empty in a sense, and you are empty because you're emptying out your energy and putting it where it should not be. And we are in charge of that. We all need to be held accountable for our own actions. And so if we are just letting our energy go where it should not be, then we're not keeping it for ourselves. And so now that I'm a little bit older, I like to hold on to my energy because I realize that it actually empowers us to hold on to it, and I use it in business, And so if we can hold on to ourselves and control ourselves, because that's ultimately what we need to be doing anyhow, is controlling our own machine, our own body, our own mind, our own soul. And as you get older, you crave that a little bit more. When you're younger, you don't really think about things in this manner, and so I think that's why, if some people don't have proper upbringing or parenting, they might go down a dark path of just sharing their body with the world, or just even leading to too much self-fellatio, if you will. And so for me, a meaningful relationship is a communication between both parties where, hey, if someone needs this or wants this and it makes sense, then you communicate and you make that happen, and that becomes a part of your relationship. So whether it's like Irina said, one time a month, or if it's one time a week, or 3 or 4 times a week, I've kind of we've been at all parts of that throughout our time. So it's a communication, and if you have good communication, then you wind up building a happy relationship that lasts. So and I'm sure all of us can speak on that.
I just love your point of view, Tim, because it's so important. Like communication is crucial, right? Because why people, like sometimes have this a misunderstanding because they are afraid to speak up. For instance, a woman is not gonna tell, like sometimes maybe she doesn't want the sex, but she wouldn't express it just to be scared to, like that her partner is gonna go and look for somebody else, right? So it all boils down to like really expressing our needs and desires to each other and feel open and free to do that, because without the proper communication, we are not really understanding each other. And rather than hurting each other, we want to be there for each other. And sometimes even it comes to the point, like sometimes a woman could be so exhausted from everything what she does, because not only she works, but she also has the kids and etc. Right? So by the end of the day, if a partner wants sex, maybe he would help her out to finish doing everything else, like washing the dishes, doing something just for her to make sure that she's open and she is relaxed and ready to have sex that night. So I think obviously everything goes like hand in hand. And the stress is also a huge factor even for a lot of guys, because from the stories that I heard, a lot of guys cannot perform because when they are stressed at work, or there is a stress, financial or some other stress, right? This actually impacts also the sex life.
Sure.
Bruno, what can you add something on that?
Yes. I don't know if I'm gonna be a little bit lost because my camera just broke and my connection went a little bit down, and so I stopped hearing and seeing people. So I just kind of came on the end. But I think it comes from both sides as well. Like I think I'm gonna say this in terms of like relationship, pure and raw relationship. Nowadays, if you take sex out of your relationship, you don't have any relationship. You have like friends with benefits. Like you take sex out of the relationship and they don't know not even how to talk, but definitely they don't even know how to start a conversation. Which means the communication needs to be worked on, right? So for me, it's just one of those things where like, and then people are tired, and then people don't have patience for each other, right? And then there's the intimacy is gone, right? And then you don't communicate, you stop trusting each other. You stop trusting each other, then you don't communicate as well, because they all they codepend on each other, right? And it just starts to be a cycle, right? And then people delay, right? They try to make a kid to just see if things end up working out, see if the kid gets them like back together again, right? Which is, in my opinion, extremely selfish of people, because you're making a kid to see if things end up well with you, because you probably didn't want to have a kid, you just had one to see if things go well, right? But you're still bringing another human. You're not making a doll or a toy. You're actually making a human. And I think, I believe that on the other side of the spectrum, you end up more miserable, you end up more depressed, you end up more desperate, you end up more impotent, because you're just delaying the obvious. And if there is one thing I learned, whether if it is with my problems or even with my past relationship, delaying the obvious and not accepting the inevitable truth that everything is just gone by a certain moment is what we call dying on the beach. Because it's just like, at some point in life we have to move on, and it's not sex that is going to fix anything. It's sex bomb. Because imagine even the compatibility in sex. But by the way, like obviously we all know like sex is extremely important in a relationship, right? And I mean, right, like compatibility in sex, I mean, for me is everything, right? I mean, I know how women are when it comes to sex compatibility. Like my type of sex as well, in terms of compatibility, is a lot of feminine as well, because I do pay attention to the details, and I do like it, and I do like from the beginning until the end. I like the role play, and I like it, I like because I find beauty in it, in those things, I'm not that simple or basic. I'm actually quite complex. And so for me, sex compatibility is super important, and I know that for a lot of people is. So if your relationship is already almost over and you're not even compatible sexually, I mean, uh, y- I mean, in those situations, you're not denying it anymore. I believe that people in those situations are not denying the inevitable truth anymore. They are accepting it and still not doing anything, which is even worse. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, y'all focus on a couple different points that I'd like to kind of noted here, but trust. Trust is a huge thing, and trust is between two people, and you can't really trust someone that's selfish, and so selfish was another point there, and so selfishness, like Irina said, like I found in my marriage is you know, I don't care to do dishes that much or, do that type of stuff because I'm over here working on, earning income. But I find that whenever I do like chores around the house, and it just like takes a huge weight off my wife's shoulders, she's always going to be more happy with me and appreciative when I just do these little things. And, to me, it's a little thing, but whenever that's your main duties and things, it's good to have that little bit of help and support. And so I like that point that Irina had said there. And so I like to I made here recently a few months ago, I started taking Friday, Saturday, and Sunday where I take care of all the chores and feeding everybody, so cooking. And so it kind of took some of my ability to work more because I like to work weekends too, but I just have like a set schedule where I'm actually like cooking breakfast, lunch, dinner, and cleaning up the kitchen. And so that really helps her out, and it's really helped out our relationship even more too. And so the other thing that I wanted to talk about was uh, uh, the spiritual aspect of what we're doing when we're having sex is more than people realize. And so maybe this is a little bit off topic of what y'all were saying, but uh, you know I don't think that a lot of people understand, because a lot of people aren't even very spiritual or conscious of what they're doing in this act. They're not taught that in religion, or like Bruno had said earlier, it's more of a control thing. God doesn't want you to do this, and God sees all, and so you're controlled to not do this thing. But it's not teaching you that when you have sex with somebody, you're sharing your, in science, you're sharing your DNA, and so your partner literally receives a piece of you, and likewise, and you are exchanging, your DNA with somebody, and so you're literally taking on a piece of this other person, whether it's, you'll find it in some emotional thing, or you'll find it in some trait, characteristic traits or something. Or even studies show that, people who are married, they begin to look like each other because they are literally sharing their DNA. Like, this is all out there. Anybody can look this up. It's there. So, it's way more spiritual than anybody talks about, really, or addresses. And to me, it's so important to not go have multiple relationships and be out there just sleeping with all kinds of different people, because now you're picking up little bits and pieces from other people that stick with you. It carries on. And so if you have a lot of partners, you need to really be watching that. I don't think anybody's like warning anybody about this, and I think it's very important to watch out for this, because if you have a lot of partners, now not, is your mind even your own? I think somebody had said, that, women are, you know, seem bipolar or something like this. Well, is it really that, or is it the fact that they have all these partners that are literally giving them bits and pieces of them, and then who do they become for, let's say, some guy that really is good for them and wants to marry them and settle down? They have all these bits and pieces from all their past partners, and you got to deal with all that. So it's a lot, and I'd love to hear your take on it.
May I?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this
Yeah.
is like one of my favorite topics.
Great.
Yes, because during sex we have the energy exchange, and like Tim, you mentioned, a lot of people are not aware of it, and we were not educated on that. So basically, only people who are awakened to the reality, understanding how the energy works, they understand. So during the sex, we do exchange the energies, and it means that the energy from a woman travels to a man and vice versa. So what does it mean? It means that we form this invisible energetic cords, and that's exactly how we are picking up the energy of other people that we are going to be carrying around. So like, be very mindful. If you are sleeping with somebody who is like, anxious, who is stressed out, believe it or not, you're going to pick up all that, emotions of that person onto yourself. And that's how it's very, very important to really select these people you want to have intimacy with. Like, be more conscious about it. I understand that desire is there, the drive is there, but also, like, put a little bit mind to that because there is like the whole picture. We have to see the entire picture where we have, mind, body, and spirit all together. And when we are, having the sex with somebody, just, be aware that you are going to be exchanging the energy, and our energy, our sexual energy is our creative energy. This is something that gives us the power, gives us life. And we have to be like very, selective who we give this energy to.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you, Tim. Bruno?
Yeah, I agree with both of you. We have to be very selective, and Tim said something obviously which is 100% correct, which is obviously you get the energy, you get the personality traits in terms of energy from some people, how they're feeling, but on top of that, you get in very small percentages traits of the partner you've been with have been with, right? So yeah, a bit confusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where like just be very conscious.
Yeah.
Because
If you're with a cheater, let's say you're with a cheater, somebody that cheats on people.
Yeah.
Now, this person's cheated before. Maybe there was somebody who's cheated, and they're just with all these other people. And obviously those people are probably not that great. It's probably a bunch of one night stands. And so what kind of people are really living their life this way? And so now you're just like taking this garden hose of just things that are not good for you. You really need to be very focused and selective on who your partner is, and learn them before you just go jump in the sack with somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like for me especially, like, in my personal reality, I, again, like, obviously I've been celibate for like a year and 7 months when it comes to obviously having a sexual relationship. And I honestly, I have my ways of exploring that energy, but it's like we were talking before as well, right? I mean, masturbation for people who are sexual celibate is a way, but again, like, not every single time, because again, I mean, if you do it every day, you're probably going to get addicted, right? And probably the most common response to a person who is addicted is saying that the person is not addicted.
Yeah.
Right? His person lives in denial. It's like, oh, you're addicted. Oh, me? No, I'm not addicted. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are. Right? And I think like control is so important, because we were discussing this earlier as well, and obviously, as a man or woman, but especially as a man, right? You are such a liability as a man and partner in a relationship, or as a friend, or as a lover, or whatever, when you have no self control. Because if you have no self control, if you have no self control for your urges, well, you don't have just sexual urges. You have anger urges, you have anxiety urges, right? You have bursts, and one day lots of things can happen. Now, I'm talking about in terms of relationships, right? I have had my fair bit of that. In fact, today I had one as well. But I'm getting better, and at the same time, I'm being able, and this is something that really tricked in my brain, was like, more able now than I was months ago of channeling that energy and channel it to something else. Because I've done it before in the past. In the past, I've done it, right? Channeling it, and then spending that energy and making it productive, right? For my own well-being, right? But but along the way, I kind of lost myself, and I lost a little bit of patience because of many things that happened. So I turned to what kind of was familiar, right? Which was the things that disconnected me before in the past as well, right? But because I had the experience, now it's not the same thing. So I managed to get back on my 2 feet way faster than before, because I didn't do the same mistakes I did before, or at least I didn't continue making them. Um, and this is something that led me to a point which is super important, which is self-awareness. And self-awareness in sex is game changing. Or even self-awareness in the situation that you are, even after sex, before sex. Let's make it very clear here: you are not forced to do anything you don't want to. And in sex, that is vital. Again, because of the sexual energy exchange, right? Timothy, is it Timothy, your full name?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, it says Tim there, bro. So, so Tim was saying very well, right? I mean, if you deal with a cheater, you're gonna have cheater energy within you.
Yeah.
But you know what that means? That means that you're gonna attract cheaters,
Exactly.
right? That's the only problem with the energies that you exchange, because energy is never destroyed. It's either created or transformed, right? So if you deal with a cheater, you're probably gonna attract a lot of cheaters, right? Especially, and the more intense you feel it, and the more intense the other person is with you, the worst, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it could lead you down a wrong path. You might lay with somebody that's a damn felon, or criminal or something, and then next thing you know, you're more apt to be that way, and but I like how you talk about having a time period of celibacy, because I did as well. After college, I had several relationships in college, but after college, I went to the workforce, and I worked in pipeline construction. So I was gone all the time, and, had few relationships, like, short relationships. But um, after a time period, I just wanted to, like, focus on myself and focus on my career, because I felt like I was just expelling my energy, and I had no control, in a sense, and a lot of anxiety and minimal income. So I wanted to change all these things so I could build toward having a family like I have now. And so I took a period of probably about 2 years of just cutting ties with even the thought of having a relationship, because I was not ready as a man. I felt like I was maybe like a teenager becoming a man type thing. And that's when I was about 25, 25, 24, 25. And so I took that time to really kind of, like, focus on myself, get my finances in order, pay off debts, start repenting on things that were really uh, holding over me, and taking that time away, which probably sounds crazy to people, take a year or two to not even think about the opposite sex and just focus. It just sounds crazy in today's time and day and age, but it was probably one of the best things I could have done for myself, just to regain focus and really take control. Like, that's what we're talking about here, is taking control of our life and cutting out these bad relationships that I kept finding myself in, and just focusing on myself and taking care of myself and loving myself and repenting, and it was a great time period for me, looking back.
So beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing. But I wanted to bring back us to, like relationship. How important is sex in the relationship? Obviously, we say that it is important because that's kind of also connecting us together, but it's not the only factor, right, that determine, because I think the close connection, the emotional connection is also very important, and the ability to express to each other. And we could always make it more exciting, more fun, right? It's all about just sit down and talk and say, let's do something about it, right? Like, why do go and venture to look for somebody else if we could actually do something between two people, right? So that's where it comes along, like that open communication, maybe go and explore something, right? Explore the fantasies, talk about it, go, maybe a night out, something just to give yourself sparkle and try to reignite that fire. So, because obviously sex is very important in relationship, and it's great when two partners are on the same page. What do you think about it, Tim?
Yeah, yeah. When we talk about sex and being in relationships and marriages, etc., I can see where it could be like frustrating. It may become frustrating for one party or the other, and if you can put yourself in the other person's shoes, let's say a woman, if the man's just always on top of them, like wanting to do something all the time, I can see where it could be like frustrating. I can see where it could be frustrating for a man, because I am a man, where all you're thinking about all day is your partner, or when you're going to have sex next. I understand that, but can you sit with your partner and just have a conversation? Can you just sit with them and hug them? Can you just sit with them, maybe watch a movie, and just take sex out of the equation? And I think you'll find more times than not that by doing that, it actually ignites the flame in your partner. By just it's great to talk about it. Yeah, it's great to do it, but what about when equation? Does it make you want it more? And so I found that in my own relationship, is just, instead of just fixating on this thing or focusing on that, then can we just enjoy each other's company and just enjoy the moment? And a lot of times that moment will turn into something more. So it's about love. It's about making love. It's not about just having sex, the act. So I try and think about it in that way, and hopefully that helps someone else.
That's a beautiful statement. Thank you so much, Bruno. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I mean, I'm not gonna add. I'm kind of going to agree and like say it from my like personal side. Like, sex is very good. It is amazing. I mean, obviously, orgasm incoming, but touching the soul is like, because we're spirits, right? We are, right? We are spirits having a human life,
Experience.
right? Having a human experience, exactly, right? So when you touch the soul, when you touch the consciousness, right? When you look a person in the eyes and you just touch them in the shoulder, or you grab them by the ends and you say it very nice, I am here for you, I am listening to you, and I support you. The person goes like, oh, nobody has ever said that to me that way. Because, like, I mean, like, for example, yeah, sure, the person may had sex with a lot of guys, right? And the person probably had a big experience, but nobody has ever made you connect that way, right?
Right.
When you are able to have that moment of connection with somebody else that goes deeper than the physical, and when you actually touch the soul, you're able to, it's almost like you have the person's hearts in your hand and you have so much control. You can either squash it or you can caress it, right? But for example, like, for a person to know how to reach that level, the person has got to have some skills, because you gotta have skills, right? You gotta have emotional, lovable, actual relationship skills, communication skills as well, right? And then obviously a lot of other skills, you can incorporate them, because again, right, like it was said before, trust is needed with communication, and you don't communicate if you don't trust. So I think that's a lot of thing that is missing nowadays currently on relationships, is not only the communication, but someone who actually is able to sit down in between them, right? In between the two people, sitting down and talking, right? Not screaming or shouting, just talking. And it's very hard sometimes, because like, you'd think that like, oh, but that's, men can totally do that. But sometimes I even argue that the majority of women are the ones who want to do that. Men are the ones who don't want. And I think that's just wrong, because we are living nowadays I think this is the time where the majority of masculine men don't exist and have vanished from the world, because they're just not able to protect and provide and serve. And there's nothing wrong with like your wife wanting to like just going and making your living for herself. There's nothing wrong with it. It's your choice, it's your decision, it's up to you and nobody else, right? But the problem with men nowadays is that they don't keep their word. They just don't. They don't. A lot of men nowadays, they don't keep their word. It's like they say they're gonna do something, and when the time comes for them to do something, they don't do it, right? And that comes with the protection, that comes with the serving, that comes with the love, and there's a lot of hypocrisy. And I mean, yes, we still do live in a time where men still feel too much stress when it comes to like not being able to open up and believing that they have to fix everything by themselves. I mean, fine, you believe that, sure, but that does not mean you should make your wife or your girlfriend guess, because that's it. That is exactly why she doesn't tell you anything as well, because women continuously copy the men they love. Not every single man, but the men they love, right? And because women know that the general of men do not open up and try to fix everything on themselves, and they expect women to guess and to know, right? Women do the same thing, right? But because women are more detailed, more aware, more in their intuition, more in their emotions, right? In their feminine energy, because feminine energy in those type of spiritual stuff is so much more stronger than men, right? Women are more aware, men are more focused. That's why a lot of men, they notice what's in front of them, but they don't notice what's around them, right? And like obviously a lot of women are able to do things way more like sneaky, and more in the quiet mode than men, because women are also not that physical, right? Women are more like, some women obviously are more in the receiving mode, and luckily we still have men who are more on the going mode, right? I go, I do, I speak, I say, right? I go in front of what I want, right? You want to follow me, great. You don't want to follow me, no problem. I do it by myself. right? And I think the world needs more people, more men who are masculine enough to go and do it, right? And yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I like what you're talking about there. I like to, think about, what do we base our relationships on? Are we basing it on a higher standard or a lower standard? And so if we go into a relationship, basically saying, "Hey, look, I follow this practice," or I believe in this. You start creating your culture for your relationship. And I think if we all kind of communicate about the culture of our relationship that we're looking to create, and you do that ahead of time, you plan your road, and then, like you say, you follow up with it. You whether it's going to be, hey, the man's going to be leading this charge, or hey, the woman's going to lead this path, this charge. At least you're creating this culture for what your expectations are of the relationship, and I think that really helps out. That's what really helped out our relationship with my wife and I, is setting our expectations, creating the culture of what we want our relationship to be, and then tweaking it along the way to make it work best for all parties. So.
I totally agree because, a lot of people don't look at the relationship as something to be worked on.
Yeah.
For some reason, everybody is aware that, they have to go to their job place or business and they have to perform, but they don't look the same way at the relationship. But the relationship is also work. So for couple who stay together, for couple who are really thriving in the relationship, doesn't mean that they never had the hardships, because this is type of part of the process, right? You have your lows, you have your highs. So this is normal. But the point is, when people are in it together, and if they are willing to work on that connection to make it stronger, to make it more powerful, to make it better, and figuring out how could they still have that fire igniting, right? So this is the most important thing. So when people are in it together and they are curious and staying in that field where they say how we can make our connection better, how we can improve our sex, how we can make it more exciting and more fun, I think that's exactly what matters. But it's nothing is for nothing. Like, you can't just enter into the relationship and expect it to be the same way for years to come, right? So it has to evolve as we are growing and evolving with the time. The same has to happen with our relationship and with our sex life. So it's all about, educating ourselves, figuring out the ways, trying new things, exploring, attending the workshops, maybe going to the sex therapist, like having these involved discussion. It's all about just the same way we are working at our job to improve it, the same way we are working on our relationship to improve it. And it's all pieces together, not only physical, but also emotional part and mental connection and spiritual connection. When we have all these parts working together, I think this is like the best union of man and woman.
Yeah, I think we talked about communication, but we didn't really talk about, and we're kind of beating around the subject of body language, because essentially, our sexual nature is going to be carried out with our body language. And body language is what, 70+% of what we speak in language. So maybe if people focus more on the study of body language, it might help out their relationships in the bedroom as well. And so I think, yes, it's great to talk, but study your partner's body language. And I think in that, you will build the trust that's required to have a better sexual relationship as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
so true. I think it's all about getting curious, right? Getting curious and get yourself educated. Like, don't think that you know it all, because we don't. right? The more we know, the more we realize how much we do not know.
Yeah.
So it's all about just keep, keep open our minds, and just talk and discover and look at different ways to have this beautiful partnership together. And Bruno, you wanted to add something?
Oh no, I
Did
was
you want
listening. I was agreeing, and then I was listening. It's all right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I think body language is so important because, like, I mean, obviously there's obvious body language where like you ask your partner, "Are you okay?" and he or she goes like, "No, it's fine. I'm all right." Then why are you talking like that? Come on, just say it, right? That's one thing. That's obvious body language, right? It actually goes beyond the body language because the person is actually speaking as well. But sometimes the person doesn't speak, and you look at a shoulder and you see the shoulders like this, and they're very tense and stuff, and the person's not even doing it on purpose. It's just the natural body reaction, right? Or the person has the head a little bit tilted down, or like sometimes like when people are annoyed, they do like this, and you can see these little things come out, right? um, and yeah, it's just like yeah, and then you are obviously that's a way to know, right? But at all times you should be gentle, and you should be you should care and stuff. And body language is super important in every relationship situation, right? Whether your partner is feeling uncomfortable, because like I mean, it can happen sometimes, and if you really don't know how your body's partner kind of behaves, and you're just guessing, and you have like seconds or minutes to guess, and the person doesn't say anything, and you're going to assume, and what you're going to probably assume the wrong thing because you don't know, and right, you don't have experience. Um, so it's just again one of those things where knowing, I wouldn't say a bit, I'd say quite a lot about your partner. Because here's the thing, right? I 100% believe that you will never know everything about one person. I don't care if you have 50, 60, 70 years of marriage. There are just certain things that you don't say because you don't want to, and that's okay. And you don't have to say everything, and that's fine. Not because it's awkward or because you feel insecure. You don't say it because you want to keep it to yourself, and you have the right to do that, and you have reason on doing that, right? And I think it is important that whether your partner feels uncomfortable or this, I think truly knowing your partner is not just knowing, like, oh, I know her favorite color, or, oh, I know what clothes he likes to wear the best, or, oh, if I could totally make his outfit to go out because I totally would like it because it so resonates with him. That's meaningless stuff, right? Knowing when your partner is uncomfortable, right? And knowing what your partner's silence is actually saying and meaning, that's like top tier knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's top tier knowledge. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that to me is what it means to have a good modern relationship, which is the topic of this discussion. Is I don't think people were really thinking this deep into things, let's say 20, 30, 40 years ago. So to me, for sex and modern relationships, what we're focused on here in this discussion is key and helpful to anybody that's looking to make a better relationship or fix the one they've got.
So true. And I just love it. I just wanted to wrap it up with everything. Any advice that we want to give, tips or advice to listeners, and to see where they can take their sex life? Tim?
Okay. Yeah, just I think we talked about it, but self-awareness, self-observation. If you find yourself doing things that you don't think is going to be best for you, or maybe you just you're not having the results that you wish you had, then focus on some self-awareness, some self-observation, and maybe book yourself a call with Irina here and see if if you need a hand. I'll give her a plug and help her out because that's what her focus is helping get people back on track. So
Awesome. Thank you. Bruno?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched it all, I believe, at least from what I recall. We did touch it all in all points, or at least in the most important ones. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I think for me, the most important take out of all of this is remember who you have sex with, and always be in mind of who comes inside of you or who you come inside of. Because the reality is that sexual energy transference is just real. And remember, it's not about the actual energy being inside of you. It's about just what the energy does, which is attract more energy like that, right? Like an actual magnet. And then you just attract more and more and more cheaters, right? And, you're probably going to make it all about yourself, which is not true. Yeah, be mindful. Take care of yourselves. Protect yourselves at all times. Watch your boundaries. Very important.
That's so beautiful. What I wanted to add is just like we are always in charge. So if we feel that our sex life is not up to par and we want some improvement, our life in our own hands. So if you have partner that you're with, just speak up, be open, and see what you can do in order to improve that relationship. We were given a lot of tools, a lot of tips, and it's all about just staying open, exploring, trying on new things, and that's exactly how we all can improve our sex life and make it more alive and fun. That's it for today. Thank you everybody for joining, and you always can leave the comments, and we are happy to see you and support you in any way. And hopefully you hear something that is useful for you and you could implement and you could improve your sex life. Till then, goodbye.